you so much for coming to this class. My name is Ashley, and I am the host of this class. And I really hope you enjoy what you learn and walk away feeling empowered and more ready to take on this journey of motherhood. So I am here. I'm going to be talking through this class. Um, I'm a real person down here, but I am going to get rid of my face for the rest of this because I move around too much and it's distracting. And we're going to minimize that, and then we will get into what we're going to go over. So I'm going to go away, but just so you know, I'm here and real. Macro minerals and motherhood. First, here is the disclaimer. I am not a doctor. Listen to your medical professionals. This is for informative, creative purposes. What are we going to learn? So we are going to talk about your macro minerals, what they are going to be doing to impact preconception, pregnancy, postpartum, what can you do now, practical steps. We're going to look at test examples. We're going to talk about how you can look at getting tested in your own levels and working with me, and then a discount for that. And then we're definitely going to have all the resources from this class and the studies up at the end if you would like to look at those on your own. Okay, who am I? I am Ashley. I am a certified nutrition coach. Basically, I got into this about 4 or 5 years ago. I thought I did all the right things for years and years and years and years. Since teenagehood, I was quote unquote the healthy one. I did all those things and I ended up absolutely destroying my health, my body, all the things. I've been on every spectrum. I was far into the diet world, far into the fitness world. And then I ended up having a lot of stress and destroying my thyroid, destroying my health, and I was on the other opposite end of that spectrum. Full diet side, and then I was like, wow, this has ruined everything. And then I went to the opposite side. We went hot and heavy into the quote unquote pro-metabolic healing function, which I feel like a lot of women have done. The problem is, myself included, a lot of people treated this pro-metabolic movement as a diet and a what you cannot do and what you can do phase in life, where really pro-metabolic should be eating to support your metabolism. Well, we all went hot and heavy, and not all of us, a lot of us, we quit exercising, we quit movement, we took in all the food, and we gained weight, right? So now this isn't to say that we didn't heal some things. I fully believe I still healed, like, my relationships with food. I healed, my energy was so much better, but I had gained weight from that. So I went on that spectrum too. And now we have come back down. I've lost, over 30 pounds, not including pregnancy weight, just pro-metabolic weight gain, and then have lost that. So I've been on both ends. I've been on all the diet, all the exercise, all the foods, um, no exercise, or all the quote unquote healing movement. Um, and neither of those things were health. So in between is where we find health and where we balance our minerals. And it's not in either of the extremes. So that is what we're going to talk about, is a true healing of your minerals, and what that means and how that can look for these stages of life. Of 5 kids, I have 2 sets of spontaneous fraternal twins. And I just have a real soft spot in my heart for motherhood. And that means, desiring to be a mother, preconception, planning for that during pregnancy, and past into postpartum, and as through all stages of motherhood. So we want to be able to thrive in this journey, not just scrape by in those first challenging few years between preconception and postpartum is some of the hardest times, and I don't think it gets enough attention or enough support or planning when really it should and it can go a lot better if we have the knowledge for and the tools to treat our body with respect during that time. So first, let's talk about what are minerals. Minerals are often referred to as the spark plugs of the body. They play a vital role in initiating and regulating countless physiological processes. They're essential for proper functioning of the cells, tissues, organs. They enable the body to generate energy, maintain homeostasis in the blood, perform complex biochemical reactions like ovulation. They are the spark plugs that ignite the fuel in the car and drive the engine. Minerals ignite and regulate the fuel of the body of the biochemical processes, ensuring that every system runs smoothly and efficiently. This is like a really in-depth, sciencey, professional way of saying they are in charge of everything in your body. If you do not have minerals in the correct place or doing the right things or at the correct quantities, you are not going to be able to use them as in the domino effect they need to create hormones, to let your brain do what it needs to do, to let your thyroid do what it needs to do, to regulate your emotions, to keep your immune system well, to keep everything functioning. Okay, so everyone likes to say disease begins in the gut or your hormones are controlling everything. I don't think that your gut is important, but what is building your gut? Your minerals. What's building your hormones? Your minerals. So we need to start looking at those levels and what is affecting those, because it's not just a matter of take more of this and less of this. It is, our bodies are far smarter than that. Okay, so they create enzyme reactions. They're cofactors for thousands of enzyme reactions in the body. They're nerve conductors. So we want our nerves to be functioning well and to transmit those messages throughout the body. They are obtained through food. We cannot produce minerals. You have to obtain them through food. Listen to that again. You cannot produce them. We have to take them in and let our body use them correctly. So our goal is to give our body what it needs to let it use the minerals right. We can't be in charge or figure out or control if we can get them. We can't get them without eating. So we need to give our body the tools it needs to use them right and eat enough food to give it what it needs. Nutrient transfer. Minerals facilitate the transfer of nutrients across the cells. Nothing gets in or out of the cells without minerals. They're basically the bouncers of your body. You have the cell, that's where we need the things to happen to do the job. Well, you can't get in or out of the cell without a mineral by your side. So, very important. They're also going to create pH balance. Minerals help keep the body in homeostasis. So they are good. Minerals are very important for keeping all those things are going to go get tested at the doctor in your blood, all those numbers, that's remaining in homeostasis. We want it balanced. Minerals are going to be vital to do that. And then muscle contractions and relaxation. So minerals are essential for contracting and relaxing every muscle in your body. There are numerous minerals that are going to have an impact on your fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum, but we're just going to talk about the macro minerals because otherwise we would be in here for hours. So calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. These are the macro minerals that are going to have a full effect on the rest of our minerals. So when we work on these four, we are in effect working on the rest of our minerals indirectly because they need these four macro minerals in order to do their job. So it's basically we're working smarter and not harder. We're not going to get hung up on these smaller minerals without working on macro minerals because that would be foolish. We would be working so much harder, digging ourselves, and we'd just be going in a circle until we work on these macro minerals. Minerals getting so messed up. So we have retention, displacement, and excretion. So they are being retained, pushed out of where they should be, or used up. This is obviously for anybody, but during preconception and birth and postpartum, we have specific reasons why they would be um, getting used a lot quicker. So, perinatal depletion, just being pregnant in general, is your body is going to prioritize baby over anything else. So, the placenta will be taking anything and everything it can from you to give to baby in order to grow and hold a baby full term. That is its goal. So, it's going to take all that it can to do that. Um, Labor and delivery obviously is very depleting. It's um, energy expenditure is great, and then also in a normal labor, like an uncomplicated labor, we would lose about 2 cups of blood, um, a little over actually 2 cups of blood. In an uncomplicated C-section, you would lose over 4 cups of blood. So just blood loss in general is depleting, not only because of just the blood you're losing, but all the nutrients in the blood, all the things that it carries, all the factors that it has, we are losing, and we need to replenish and try to regain after that. And now remember, this is uncomplicated. So if we have any complications, we're going to have a lot more loss. Breastfeeding is obviously very depleting. You are using far more nutrients even than growing a baby to feed a baby. So we need a lot to really up our minerals and take care of those during the breastfeeding period. And a lot of that, why it's so difficult and depleting, is because we're starting kind of in a difficult state, right? We just had a baby. Even if it was uncomplicated, we still lost a lot of blood. We did a lot of work. Mentally, it's a lot. So that is difficult. And then you add in sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation is pretty much an undeniable fact that you will deal with postpartum. And actually, sleep deprivation is so important, or sleep is so important, that if you are getting less than 5 hours of sleep a night, like unbroken, not total, but 5 hours of unbroken sleep, if you're getting not that, you will be in pre-diabetic blood sugars within a week. So now, imagine a poor new mom who maybe had a complicated birth. So there's number one, a lot of blood loss, a lot of physical mending that needs to happen, mental healing and trauma that has happened. You add in a skill like breastfeeding you're trying to learn that is so depleting. Mom probably isn't eating enough because she's worried about baby. She doesn't have time to eat. Then you add in not sleeping. So now she's pushed into pre-diabetic blood sugars. And if you've ever had blood sugar issues, you know how horrible it feels and how crazy it makes you. So you add all that together and you have such a disaster waiting. And that is what we are trying to avoid. So building up these minerals in the beginning, even before we are pregnant, is going to trickle all the way down into having stores available and not getting so dysregulated from postpartum. Um, let's talk about the first mineral, calcium. Calcium's over 90% of it is in the bones and teeth. It's a primary structural element. So when it's displaced into tissues, it's going to dysregulate that tissue or organ's function. So we want it in bones and teeth, right? I feel like this is a common complaint or issue that people hear about during pregnancy, like, oh, your teeth are going to get so bad after you have a baby. Well, this can be true, but this should not be this way. We want it in bones and teeth. When it comes out of bones and teeth, it's starting to come into tissue, like soft tissue, and it will cause problems in soft tissue where it's not supposed to be. It controls the nervous system. It's responsible for muscle contractions. So muscle contractions, as in contractions, that's going to be important for someone who is going to be laboring and delivering a baby. It's going to maintain pH of the body, reduce lactic acid, inhibit your thyroid hormone. Insulin is also dependent on calcium being available. And it can also block iodine receptors and negatively impact your thyroid when it's not where it should be. Calcium in preconception. So calcium is needed for the sperm to move to the egg and will release it into the egg. In order for a mature egg to get to fertilization, calcium will be required in the sperm at adequate levels. So this is not only talking preconception for the egg, but also for the sperm. So the dad is just as important here. We need calcium to be adequate levels in that sperm to fertilize the egg. So even if it gets there, to release it, in order to fertilize it, it needs adequate calcium. The prostate contains 2 times more calcium than the blood. It's involved in huge cell development as well as placental development. Calcium deficiency is a huge factor for insulin resistance in the baby. So there's a lot of studies showing that mothers who were deficient in calcium but their children were at higher risk later in life to develop insulin resistance. Now remember, insulin was dependent on calcium being available. So we are not only building a baby, we are passing down mineral stores. If we don't have the mineral stores to pass down, they're not going to receive what they need. Also an increased risk of preeclampsia and diabetes and preterm birth. Your thyroid is very dependent on calcium in the first trimester. Mom's thyroid is solely sustaining the baby. So having your thyroid in good shape is going to be very important while you are in that first trimester because you are fully sustaining that baby through your thyroid. By the third trimester, your thyroid hormone increases by 50% to grow the baby's brain. Adequate bone development is required 30 grams throughout pregnancy to transfer. 25% of calcium is absorbed at good digestion. So average intake is still too low with adequate absorption and digestive function. So this means most people are absorbing, if you have good digestion, you're absorbing 25% of the calcium you take in. And most people are not getting enough calcium, and that is, even if they are getting the average intake, it's still too low at that absorption and digestive function to get enough for baby. What's so awesome about our bodies is in pregnancy, we actually adapt and we double our absorption. So we're absorbing at 50%. Isn't that cool? So there's a very strong relationship between dietary calcium and type 2 diabetes because calcium is required to let the pancreas be able to do its job. During pregnancy, 80% of the minerals from mom, and most of that is actually in the last few weeks. So this is really important why preterm birth is going to strip away a lot of those minerals from baby. So obviously, preeclampsia is mentioned quite a bit in this. So preeclampsia is one of the major reasons why babies are delivered prematurely. Premature would be before 36 weeks is what is determined as premature for these studies. So when they're born before 36 weeks or induced at 36 weeks or before because of preeclampsia, they are missing out on most of that mineral transfer. So not only do we need adequate stores to hand over to baby, but we also need to keep baby in there long enough to pass all those minerals. Another common complaint is muscle cramps in the middle of the night. So low calcium, not available calcium is usually responsible for these specific cramps that are in the middle of the night. So the World Health Organization determined that insufficient calcium is going to cause high blood pressure, and there were 64,000 deaths in this study. The maternal deaths, and they had fetal growth restriction from that high blood pressure, again, from insufficient calcium. So now let's go back here. If you are absorbing 25% at good digestion, if you have good digestion, if you have poor digestion, Um, this could be obviously much lower. And then our bodies are amazing and we're going to double absorption, but we could still have very low absorption to begin with. So let's say this is at 10% absorption. We double it, we're only at 20% absorption. So we're still not getting in enough, and we can't just supplement our way into getting enough. We need to see why our calcium is not getting absorbed correctly. Not enough calcium in the bones and teeth where it should be is going to allow space for metals like lead to accumulate rapidly and contribute to mortality. So lead is a very similar structure to calcium. So it basically, if you picture the minerals like Legos, they all have receptor sites. So they all have somewhere they're supposed to lock into. These have similar structures as some metals. So lead has a very similar structure to calcium. When calcium is not getting used in the bones and teeth where it's supposed to be, and it's being shuttled into soft tissue, and we'll talk later about why that could be. Um, we have these open Legos, these open receptors, and lead comes through and sees an open receptor. It fits in there nicely, so it heads in. Well, then we have lead filling up these receptors, and now calcium is even in more trouble because even if we get enough of it, it has nowhere to go. So it starts heading to that soft tissue again, which is going to be a problem. All right. So microbe passing through the vaginal canal, calcium-rich diets will seed baby better during birth, and that's passed on. So when we have a calcium-rich diet from mom, we get all those microbes passed so much better down through birth. Now, calcium is responsible for muscle contractions. So we have too much calcium. If we have too much calcium in relation to magnesium, we are going to have very hard contractions, not able to recover from them. It's going to be very difficult. Too little calcium in relation to magnesium, our contractions are not going to get strong enough. We're not going to progress. They might come, but they're not ever going to be working in the manner they should to create progress, to create change, because they don't have enough intensity, they don't have enough calcium behind them to contract that muscle. Okay, and then calcium and postpartum. Bone loss is very, very common postpartum. This is an issue. So if you're not getting enough, baby will literally suck it out of your bones and teeth. So this is one reason that you're not having it in your bones and teeth. If you're not consuming enough, your body will do everything it can to give this to baby because it prioritizes baby over you. So it will take this from your bones and teeth and give it to baby. Well, you're left with really none if you're not getting in enough. So really adequate stores prior to pregnancy is going to be very, very crucial. 200 milligrams of calcium a day after birth from our milk is needed for the first 6 months for a singleton. I have twins, so I always think, what would this be for twins? So if anyone else has twins, this would be double. So 400 milligrams for twins. That would mean your daily intake would need to be 1,300 milligrams a day at great absorption. So if you had perfect digestion, 1,300 milligrams a day. Now, pause and think. There's lots of women who need to go dairy-free because they are having gut issues or baby is having gut issues during nursing. Now think of how much more difficult this is going to be and the kind of catastrophe we are creating. Collard greens, bok choy are wonderful non-dairy sources that have great calcium and they are not high in oxalates, so that's very helpful. So 25% is absorbed at good digestion. Average intake, again, still too low. That bone loss, there's a lot of studies showing that bone loss in perimenopause, so when women are dealing with this in perimenopause, it can be tracked all the way back to pregnancy. So we are literally building our perimenopause health during preconception. That is how smart our body is and how diligent our body is at trying to do its job and take care of us. It is never working against us. So it just needs adequate stores and adequate levels before it can do all these things. And that really makes sense. We're creating an entire human being, or two, or three. We need to have adequate material to create a human life. Um, Reduction can be mostly in the lower back for this bone loss and the hips at 3 to 4% by 8 weeks postpartum. That is a lot. Losing 3 to 4% of your bone loss at 8 weeks is rapid. So this is a large reason that we see like those major dental issues emerging postpartum, or even long-term pelvic floor issues, posture problems. This can all really be a lot of it traced back to that calcium insufficiency. Confirming that calcium is not moving to soft tissue is going to be a huge benefit to ensure the health for both mom and baby, and that our calcium is where it should be in those bones for both, again, mom and baby. Okay, magnesium. Magnesium lives in your mitochondria. So not every cell has mitochondria. Red blood cells, for example, do not have mitochondria. Your liver has 1 to 2,000 mitochondria per cell. Eggs have 100,000 to 600,000 mitochondria. So it is very rich in mitochondria and needs a lot of magnesium. So magnesium is required for every one of these mitochondria. Glucose sensitivity is going to be higher, need fast energy. Eggs need a lot of energy. So we are needing carbohydrates to fuel this mitochondria, to create enough glucose for them to do their job. Inflammation is a really big problem in preconception. So when our cortisol is high, sex hormones go down, fertility is impaired. Magnesium is something that's very anti-inflammatory. Again, remember, it's relaxing. Calcium was contracting, magnesium was relaxing. That's why those are the two minerals for contractions. We want to contract and relax. Magnesium is very anti-inflammatory. So low magnesium is connected to hypertension, heart issues, diabetes, migraines, high blood pressure. Magnesium is also a wonderful detox. So constipation alone is a huge problem and has a huge impact on detoxing and eliminating inflammation. This is a big problem I see women in preconception have this issue, pregnancy, and then postpartum for sure. It's also going to be vital for your liver function. It's dependent on magnesium. Again, your liver is a natural detoxifier, but it needs the right tools. Magnesium also opposes lead, cadmium, apparently lead again, and aluminum. Magnesium and pregnancy. So low magnesium in tissue is a higher chance of miscarriage, also a higher chance of diabetes. So again, looking at this in tissue, we are not just saying, well, I take magnesium, it should be fine. Our body is so much more nuanced and so much smarter than that, which we will get into. Magnesium and preeclampsia. So high serum calcium and magnesium is going to be causing a problem. So serum would be blood. So when we have high serum calcium, so it's high in the blood, and high in calcium and magnesium are high in blood, they need to be in tissue, not in blood. So they're not able to do their job because these two are intercellular minerals. So they need to be into the tissue, into the cell, not floating around in the blood. So we're going to have an increased risk of preeclampsia for that. Stress itself, physical or mental, we're going to lose magnesium rapidly. So we're going to have an increase in maybe PMS symptoms, hormonal disorders, diabetes, metabolic disorders, all kinds of things. So when this is one of the first minerals to go under stress, we need extra support. Magnesium and postpartum. Postpartum constipation, again, it's going to be a big problem. It can be a big problem, and it can cause more issues than like, oh, just I'm constipated. It can be a really dangerous situation. So we have relaxin in our body during pregnancy. We have more relaxin, we have more estrogen. This is in the whole body. this isn't just, we need it in our pelvis to open that thing up and get that baby out. But it is not partial to just that part of our body. This is why women can get very flat feet during pregnancy. That relaxin comes and it goes through the whole body. So you can gain larger feet from this. This is why. We have a slowed movement of digestion. Birth is not the time to be digesting. Our body knows that. It has other things to do. So the body starts to hold digestion during birth. Um, then we have low magnesium is going to be making this worse, and it's not going to be able to restart. So we're not going to be able to restart that digestion after birth if we don't have that magnesium to relax things and pull things through. Postnatal depletion cure. There's a quote on the next page here, but without magnesium, nothing works. So do we have mom brain? This is a term, postpartum, I feel like I hear all the time. Baby brain, pregnancy brain, whatever you want to call it. Is it that? No, it's depletion. So here's a quote from this book. Without magnesium, nothing works quite right. The proper functioning of calcium, iron, zinc, and copper all depended on magnesium to do its job. Magnesium is needed to support energy cycles, to help your muscles move fluidly and your nerves function, to enhance sleep by increasing melatonin production, to improve the release of your brain's chemicals, to stabilize blood sugar, to support bone health, and to support the production of DHEA, an adrenal hormone that helps with energy stability. If your magnesium levels are depleted, your symptoms will include fatigue, muscle tension, agitation, poor and light sleep with early morning wakings, poor concentration and memory, and fuzzy, agitated brain function. This is from the book Postnatal Depletion Cure. So again, is it mom brain? Is it baby brain? Or are we simply not giving our body what it needs to do its job? Our body is not a mystery of who knows why I feel this way, or I'm just meant to have a fuzzy, agitated brain now that I'm a mom. That is silly. Okay, sodium. Sodium is going to be responsible for elevation of blood pressure, so that can be a increased risk for preeclampsia, fetal growth restriction, preterm birth, preterm delivery, and placental abruption. Sodium and endometriosis, which is inflammation, there was a study where 116,000 women, this is a very big study, were confirmed they had higher plasma sodium and they had future hypertension in pregnancy when they had endometriosis to begin with. So really working on this inflammation in the beginning and getting sodium where it needs to be is going to be very crucial. Sodium in pregnancy. So again, we adapt during pregnancy and use sodium so much better. So we will absorb it for placental growth and cardiac adaptations. It's going to facilitate placental growth. So shortly after implantation, it's going to be doing this. And it's going to regulate part of that. We're going to have an increased blood flow by 50 to 100%. More blood flow. If we have 100% more blood in our body when you have twins. So if you're lightheaded because of all this blood flow, what helps when you are feeling dizzy and lightheaded? What are doctors going to say? Anyone going to say? Get some salt. Your blood pressure is too low. We're of course having low blood pressure. Look at our cells of our arteries have dilated. We have so much blood pumping through our body. We need to be able to use that. So our cardiac output and blood pressure is also increased greatly. This is why we are peeing more during pregnancy. We have a lot more to filter. Those kidneys have a lot to filter. They're doing a big job now. Look at all that blood. They are doing a lot of work. There's also studies showing there is no benefit of restriction of salt during pregnancy, and there was actually a decrease of swelling and bleeding in birth with increased salt intake and sodium intake. Sodium and postpartum. So your blood pressure will peak 1 week after birth. Postpartum preeclampsia can happen up to 6 weeks after birth. Mineral balancing is very important here. So, a lot of this can be avoided postpartum preeclampsia from eating enough food in those first few weeks after birth, which, if you are on the lookout for this, like headaches and visual changes are going to present. That would be a big thing to look for postpartum preeclampsia. But this can be very much avoided when we are obviously looking to avoid preeclampsia during pregnancy by getting our minerals, which we will get into, and then balancing the minerals postpartum is going to be essential to be avoiding this as well with enough of the sodium and magnesium. Okay, and now potassium. So potassium is regulating your blood pressure, sensitizing the cells to the thyroid hormone. It's going to dilate arteries, which is correlated with preeclampsia. Sperm lacking in potassium will not fertilize as well. So consumption to nursing, all the way through that. So by the second we conceive to all the way through nursing, when we get adequate potassium, we can reduce lifelong disease risk for baby by getting adequate potassium that entire time, which is amazing. Um, Insulin resistance and hypertension can be tracked to also a lack of potassium from mom. Gestational hypertension is we need 250 milligrams higher potassium daily to greatly reduce that risk. So that would bring you to 4,400 milligrams of potassium a day has been shown to greatly reduce those risks. Aldosteronism, PA, is significantly lowered potassium in the arteries and they are not dilating. So when we are worried about aldosteronism, this is going to be greatly a higher risk when we have low potassium. We're not dilating our arteries. Preeclampsia is probably the most common complication for preterm birth. Preterm birth, again, before the 36 to 37 weeks. 37 weeks, we are getting the bulk of the transfer from those minerals. Preterm birth can be scheduled induction or spontaneous labor prior to that from preeclampsia or high blood pressure. Getting a minimum of that 4,400 milligrams of potassium reduces the risk of preeclampsia by 50%. Baby aspirin, which is often normally the recommendation to reduce the risk of preeclampsia, reduces that by 2 to 5%. So if you want to take baby aspirin, go right ahead. But also get your potassium in. You will reduce your risk by 50%. Postpartum, potassium and postpartum. Potassium in your breast milk. So 27% of first-time moms stop nursing because of a low supply. They have significantly higher issues when they are transferring that colostrum to mature milk. This is usually around day 7. So that's usually when this low supply comes in and mom is like, I can't do this. 27% of moms who stop nursing, it's right around here. They have too much sodium and not enough potassium. The ratio should decline. If it's high, we're not going to make enough milk. So we need that to transition into mature milk. Potassium is needed. If we do not have that potassium on board, we are going to have a lower supply. We're not going to transfer into mature milk. So filtered milk comes from blood. Potassium should be in the cells and in the tissue. If we do not have enough there, we are not going to transfer it. So during nursing, again, 375 milligrams is excreted, absorbed at 85%, an additional 400 for nursing. So again, 4,400 milligrams a day nursing at great digestion. You can easily do more if you are not at optimal digestion. So you really are not going to get too much of this unless you have a kidney disease or you are on blood pressure medication. You are just fine getting more than that. And again, all these studies are going to be linked at the end or shown at the end. Okay, now a little bit postpartum anxiety and depression. I just want to touch on this here. So this is a big stress for people, right? Um, as it should be because it's horrible. And I dealt with this for my first pregnancies, and it's not talked about enough. And kind of really, you're just told, go to the doctor, get medication. That's about it, right? So here's some like common symptoms of anxiety and depression. We have worrying, restlessness, irritability, racing thoughts, perfectionism, heart pounding or palpitations, trouble breathing, sweating, dizzy, hives, rashes, not eating, um, obsessive disorder, compulsive tendencies, hopelessness, loss of interest, guilt, crying, fatigue, not eating or eating too much, trouble sleeping even when you're tired, difficulty focusing, intrusive thoughts. I feel like this is a pretty common list. A lot of women are dealing with that. Okay, so now let's look at high or low magnesium, high or low calcium, muscle cramps, irritability, anxiousness, heart issues, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, memory problems, headaches, fatigue, insomnia, not able to sleep, can't concentrate. Again, irritability, headaches, manic, psychotic episodes, OCD tendencies, ADD, can't focus. High or low sodium, again, irritability, agitation, mood swings, anxiety, restlessness, depression, feeling brain fog, mentally unclear, difficulty concentrating, apathy, even anorexia, um, disoriented, out of touch. Again, I like to say this, people say this is baby brain. Go, 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 feeling hostile, resentful, rage. Um, One more, apathy, checked out, resentment, limiting beliefs, negative thought patterns, impending doom. These are all extremely common symptoms and tendencies for these macro minerals being off. And they very clearly overlap with the symptoms of postpartum anxiety or depression. Now, I'm going to go back for a second. I'm not saying every single thing will be cured by fixing your minerals, but I am saying it is absolutely worth looking into and trying to balance prior to getting in over our heads with these symptoms. Okay, a little bit about heavy metals. Like I mentioned before, heavy metals are a huge factor in conception. Metals are similar in structure. If we have metals not where they are, or minerals where they are not supposed to be, we are going to leave room for metals. And they're going to displace this even further. So a few examples. So we have potassium and rubidium. We have calcium and strontium, zinc and mercury and cadmium. These are all in the same line. They are going to have similar structures. When we have these happening, we are going to um, be more vulnerable. So we should be able to fight off metals. If we don't have minerals where they're supposed to be, we are more vulnerable to an accumulation of these metals. Now, why are we testing in hair and why am I talking about tissue testing over blood testing? Hair measures the accumulation of metals over a certain time. Blood is going to measure metals absorbed temporarily and in circulation before being excreted through urine or shoved into tissue like hair. Hair is not showing the total body load. It is merely a measure of excretion at the time the metals are deposited into many tissues. So it can be in the liver, brain, hair is one of them it's deposited into. If someone has no metals on a hair sample, this does not mean there are no metals in their body. Some metals do not excrete well through the hair. The body can use urine or bile for elimination for some of those. And metals can pass through the placenta and be passed down to children during pregnancy. So, similar if a mother has a mineral deficiency and posing metals present, she can download those metals to baby instead of the minerals that baby is needing. We'll talk a little bit about heavy metals here. So, for sperm, research in reproductive toxicology evaluated that men in areas with high arsenic exposure had 45% decrease in sperm concentration and a 50% reduction in the mobility of those sperm. Um, and a lot of these, again, these studies are going to be showing blood, not tissue, but like we just talked about, they are in blood before they are in tissue. So they are they're in the body one way or another, and hair is over a, if we see it in hair, it's been there for a longer period of time. Um, so cadmium impact. High cadmium exposure was associated with 39% reduction in sperm concentration. And then another study assessed mercury. When men were exposed to that, they had 53% reduction in sperm count and 28% reduction in the mobility of those sperm. As far as egg, there was a study that showed lead levels had a 34% reduction in ovulation compared to those in the lowest that had the least amount of lead. And remember, this is blood. Lead is going to be depositing in tissue um, far more rapidly and can be absolutely full in tissue. It's not testing it in tissue, this is testing it in blood. And it can be pushing that calcium out of where it needs to be, and lead is taking its place. So, pregnancy rates were reduced by 26%. Another study showed that cadmium decreased fertilization by 21%, and embryo development was reduced by 28% in cadmium exposed eggs. And then mercury, 27% reduction in successful fertilization rates during IVF. Implantation rates dropped by 19% when they had mercury exposure. And then arsenic exposure had a 40% decrease in successful pregnancies and 35% reduction in egg quality. And you're thinking, I'm not exposed to any of these metals, so what's the problem? I'm not trying to be around all these things. Well, unfortunately, we are. The water we drink, the soil we are growing our food in. If I could encourage one thing, filter your water, not with a fridge filter, that filters your taste, a real filter for your water. A pitcher, not Brita, that doesn't do anything either. Clearly filtered pitcher, a reverse osmosis system, something that is filtering out these metals is something every single human should be doing. Heavy metals in your gut. The metals we discussed are also going to be having a huge impact on your estrogen mobility and overgrowth of certain bacteria. For the three I'm going to talk about are strep, staph, and H. pylori. These are something to be taken seriously. I'm going to talk about the three different things that we are finding in the gut that can cause a lot of issues for baby and mom. And what are we getting these bacteria levels from? So this is from a GI map. A GI map is a GI microbial assess plus test. So a comprehensive stool analysis and molecular test that's looking at the DNA genes of specific organisms in the gut. It's going to give you a comprehensive overview of the gut. It can help reveal the root of symptoms you are having, not just generic diagnosis like IBS or SIBO. It's going to tell you how you're digesting and absorbing food, test for inflammation, just really give you a lot bigger picture of what's going on in your gut's immune system. So instead of just testing one microbe, it gives a comprehensive view of many microbes. And each of the microbes in the GI map is different, it causes different reactions and different symptoms. So for instance, if you can detect different foods you're sensitive to, if you're having abdominal pain, constipation, cramping, diarrhea, bloating, gas, it's going to give you the reason why instead of just, oh, well, you have IBS or you have leaky gut or you can't eat all these foods. Like, let's see why. Do we have undergrown bacteria? Do we have overgrowth bacteria? If we have those, why? Why are they so overgrown? That's where the HTMA comes in. So how are we producing stomach acid? What heavy metals do we have on board that are going to be inhibiting certain minerals like zinc, chromium, things that our gut needs to do its job? Or do we have metals that are taking those receptor sites and then causing this overgrowth or undergrowth in the gut? It's also going to look at pathogens, like big things like C. diff, E. coli, salmonella, all of that. And then also show why we are so susceptible to those things, because we should be able to fight those things off. So that is the test that we are talking about when I talk about looking at these certain overgrowths in the gut. H. pylori has been correlated with pregnancy, nausea, and vomiting. Addressing this prior can be a way to decrease morning sickness once conception has occurred. So, really, I hear a lot of complaints about they want to find a solution to this morning sickness. Unfortunately, this is really something that needs to be addressed prior to conception. Because if you're having horrible morning sickness, it's often because of something that was already present or we did not have enough of prior. So, stomach acid being one. Um, we are also going to not be absorbing B12 well when we don't have the stomach acid. By eliminating H. pylori, studies have shown that B12 absorption increases and anemia can correct itself with this. And just to tie this back into your minerals a little bit, low stomach acid, we are creating our stomach acid from our sodium and potassium levels. So again, when people say disease starts in the gut, well, low stomach acid starts in our minerals. So that is where we start seeing some low stomach acid when we are not getting enough of those, or we are not taking care of those, I should say. Um, strep, staph. Staphylococcus is a key bacteria when we are looking at eczema. So it's another big complaint I see for moms and babies. This bacteria is acquired from skin to skin contact with mom or dad. High levels are found in the gut. Higher levels are found in the gut for babies born via C-section and formula-fed babies because there are certain antibodies and things that are in breast milk that are and good bacterias and enzymes that are passed through the vaginal canal and through breast milk that obviously if babies weren't in the vaginal canal or aren't getting breast milk, they will not have access to. So because of this aforementioned risk of eczema, when these bacteria are high, addressing them before conception in mother and father who can pass this on is very important. Staphylococcus are producers of beta-glucuronidase. Beta-glucuronidase is going to impact a woman's ability to recycle estrogen. So if we are having some of these overgrowths of bacteria, we can actually be affecting our ability to use and recycle estrogen. Balanced estrogen levels are obviously necessary for fertility. And then Streptococcus is going to lead to tooth decay when overgrown. So again, this can lead to some of the dental issues. If we have low calcium and we have Streptococcus, we have a big dentist bill there. This bacteria is also associated with pandas and children, can lead to OCD, anxiety, and more. This is kind of I'd say, newer thing that people are becoming more and more aware of. High levels at 3 months are associated with increased risk of obesity at 5 or 6 years of age, high risk or high levels of the Streptococcus. And they're also going to be higher for those who present with autism. Because of the aforementioned risk of pandas when these bacteria are high, again, addressing these levels before conception in mom is very important. Okay, so practical supports. What can you do right now? Eat enough food. The majority of women, this is well over 2,000 calories preconception for the majority of women. Unless you're 5 feet tall and you just sit all day, you probably should be eating 2,000 calories a day. Additional 300 calories for pregnancy and an additional 400 calories once you're nursing, if you're nursing one baby. If you're nursing more than one baby, this is more. Now, people are like, oh, that's not that many more calories, 300 more calories during pregnancy. No, it's not. But not many women are eating adequate calories pre-pregnancy. And this is where they get into trouble. If you're under eating before you get pregnant, there's no way you're eating enough to build your mineral stores, to transfer to baby, to give baby what it needs, and to keep you from falling apart when baby takes everything from you. So, eating enough is number one. We cannot create minerals, we have to consume them. Aim for 4,000 milligrams of potassium a day pre-conception. This is next to impossible if you're eating 1,400 calories a day. We need to eat enough. Get 8 hours of sleep a night. Sleep is essential. Blue light blockers, get outside before 10 a.m., even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's in the cold, You can do it. I have a lot more info on this in my free foundations guide, which is linked on my website. Here's some food ideas that are going to be high in these minerals. So we have high potassium foods, squash, nettle, celery juice, coconut water, coconut milk, beet greens, avocados, potatoes. Potatoes are the queen, and tomatoes. These are not, and this is not an exclusive list. This is just some ideas. High sodium foods, obviously salt, pickled vegetables, sauerkraut, celery juice again, artichokes, beets, Swiss chard, animal products, and eggs. High calcium foods, sardines, almonds, almond milk, grapefruit juice, cow and goat milk, cow and goat cheese, yogurt, collard greens are all great. And magnesium, we have spinach, pumpkin seeds, avocado, hemp seeds, Swiss chard, dark chocolate, almonds, cashews, and mackerel. Nora tea is a wonderful addition for high minerals. Nettle infusions, electrolytes, potassium cocktail. This used to be called pickleball cocktail, is my favorite. This is a high potassium electrolyte. And then also you can make soul water, which is very cheap, very cost effective, very useful, and will last you a very long time. Okay, let's talk, whoopsies. Let's talk about some misconceptions here. So let's say you're like, well, I take a prenatal, so I am good to go. That's what my prenatal's for, right? Well, yes, it is partially, but are a lot of prenatals that are, let's just look at a prenatal, okay? This is a popular prenatal. So first of all, we have some synthetic forms of vitamins. You need to have high thyroid function in order to transfer these. A lot of people do not transfer them. So if you can't transfer them, you can't use them. There is vitamin D in here, and there is a lot of vitamin D in here, and this will be lowering your macro minerals for some. Some people might be able to handle some vitamin D, but if you are already very low in macro minerals, this will push them even lower. And vitamin D, if you are already low in vitamin D, this is telling you you are low in magnesium as well. And before you think, well, why don't I just go supplement magnesium? We can't do that, and we will get to that as well. But this also has very, very low calcium content here. Now remember how much we need a lot of calcium, 1,300 milligrams a day. Now, it's not to say that this should all come from a supplement, but if it's difficult to get, this would be, it would be helpful to have a little bit more in a supplement form. There is no sodium in here whatsoever, which again, remember the sodium was decreasing a risk in bleeding in birth and postpartum, and helping preeclampsia. So that would be nice to have in here. There's also very little potassium, 100 milligrams. You're looking for 4,400 milligrams a day. This is a drop in the bucket. Your copper here is close to 100% of the daily value. This is literally its own class, copper. Pregnant women are naturally raising their copper levels with raising estrogen. So this could be very high for some women already, and this can cause a lot of mental health postpartum issues, even deeper than postpartum anxiety, like we're talking postpartum psychosis. So I would not want to be adding this copper like this for everybody indiscriminately. Something I prefer a lot more. So for food first, always. We always have to be first eating enough. After this is where testing would come in. For a pregnant woman, we can have a custom prenatal made for exactly for your mineral needs, exactly for your oxidation rate. We can address your thyroid function in that test to see if you are able to naturally convert vitamins and minerals, to see how you're using fuel, to see your detoxifying abilities, to look at your metal status. We're going to see adrenal function, blood sugar balancing, hormones, how you create energy, if you're in fight or flight, if you're prone to bacterial infections or viral infections. And this is all from a teaspoon of hair. This is an example of a base for a prenatal. We customize it after this. So you can add more to this you can take things away and you can add all kinds of other things. So like for this person, we would maybe add some manganese in. That's usually low with her copper. I would add additional potassium here. Um, the zinc could be, for this specific case, was at a loss, so I would add in more zinc for her. But also, we're not just looking at, okay, you're low in this, you're high in this, let's take it. That's not how this test works. We would also look at her metals, her transfer rate. Why are these minerals being excreted or held onto so intensely? What is this test that we use a teaspoon of hair? It is a hair tissue mineral analysis. This is where we're testing in tissue, like I've been talking about. So it's going to show how the body's energy system is out of balance, how we can use nutrition and diet to correct it. Once those things are restored, the energy and the stamina, we can often heal a lot of the problems on their own. So, like I said, we look at macro minerals, and oftentimes the rest of those things can actually balance out. We can actually start to detoxify things. We can improve things on our own once we give it the tools it needs. So it's going to look at those ratio, the levels, and then also the ratios, which is really important. That's really showing how our body's responding to the minerals, how it can use them, how the cells are communicating with the organs, um, what's getting in and out. It's also going to show how we're detoxifying metals, blood sugar handling, adrenal activity, thyroid function, even mental health. It's giving us very clear information on what's going to be happening on a cellular level, which is really the start of the domino effect that trickles down into the rest of health. So we need to look at how our body is using and responding to what we're giving it before we just start throwing new things at it and giving it different things. If we can't use it, we can't benefit from it. So collecting a hair sample is an at-home test. It's quick, easy, and non-invasive. So let's look at a few partial tests to just show some common things that we look for. Okay, so here is a test. This is a slow oxidizer, so she's not going to be detoxifying metals very quickly. You can see here these levels are pretty low. This does not necessarily mean she has this low of levels in her body. It just shows that's what she's currently able to excrete. So that's one of the things we need to work on. She needed to start being able to push more metals out. We need to give her body the ability to detoxify. We need to work on the adrenal function um, and the bile function. That's really how we excrete a lot of those things, including copper. So her copper, you can see, is very high. So this would present with a lot of fertility issues, um, menstrual cycle issues, mental problems. Copper is a big problem for women. And it's not to say that if you have a test and it doesn't look like this, that you don't have that problem. It can also be hidden. So we can see her sodium and potassium are low. We would like everything around this white range. They are low, but in relation to each other, she actually has a very high sodium to potassium ratio. So this is something like um, post-birth, she would have a maybe some harder time even producing milk with a ratio this high because we want that to be more balanced so we can transfer to mature milk like we talked about. Um, she has some low cobalt. This would indicate low stomach acid, which we already know because sodium and potassium are creating stomach acid, and these are very, very low. Magnesium, you would think looks very high, but this is actually at a loss. So it is being excreted rapidly and used up. And calcium, you would say it looks like she has enough of that. Well, this is actually starting to be at a loss as well. So it's starting to build up in soft tissue. We don't really want this here. We want it in hard tissue, right? We want it in bones and teeth. So when it's high in tissue, we have some stress happening. We also can see here we have high iron. This is a very good indicator of um, a gut pathogen happening. And this particular test, she did also have a GI map, and she also did have C. diff happening in her gut. So when iron, when your body again is very smart, it's not ever trying to work against you, but when our gut sees a pathogen happening in the gut, something it doesn't want to feed, iron will feed a pathogen. So it is trying to protect your body and start to pull that iron out of your blood and push it into tissue so the pathogen can't use it. So this could look like someone who's anemic because we don't have enough iron or things happening in the blood. Well, it's not in the blood because it's being pushed into the tissue because of this pathogen in the gut. So really looking at the full picture here. Okay. And here is another one. So this is someone you can see that has metals on board. She would also be close to what's considered a calcium shell. So your body is in such a stressful state, it's starting to, again, pull that calcium out of hard tissue, wrap your cells in calcium to protect it from the stress that's happening. It's always associated with a copper imbalance, even if it's hidden. This one is not hidden. So this one, when we break through that calcium shell and start to move this back to soft, or excuse me, move it back to hard tissue, there's going to be a lot of emotional factors here because this is going to be very much creating a lot of emotion and trauma, bringing up past traumas. This calcium's trying to numb that. So when we start to push that back in to where it's supposed to go, we're going to kind of have a big burst of emotions or trauma brought back up. And that's something that we would need to work on. You can see this cobalt is at a great loss, so we have a lot of stomach acid issues here. A lot of metals on board. This is something that she was wanting to get in line for her fertility. And we worked on this, and she ended up having her second pregnancy successfully without help of medication like she did for her first baby. So getting these things out and rebalancing some of this is very, very important. And then here's another example of a really common pattern I see for women, and this is a 4 lows pattern. So these first 4 macro minerals, 3 of 4 of them are very low. They're in the purple here. 3 lows is treated the same as 4 lows because if you don't take care of 3 lows, you will end up in 4 lows. So this is a very depleted pattern from a lot of stress over a long period of time. And we really need to focus on rest and nourishment, specific types of foods. We would need higher carbs. Um, Definitely making sure you're getting enough carbs when you are in this state because your body cannot use energy like fats very well right now. It does not have anything on board to really get anything done. So we want to make sure we're getting really paying attention to getting enough food, the right calories, enough carbohydrates is going to be very important here. And as you can see, this one, her copper is very low. This does not mean she's lacking in copper, but she might not have well, we know she doesn't have the adrenal function. Um, her magnesium and sodium, that's her adrenal ratio here, is very low. She's not going to have the function or the ability to move copper. And she doesn't have that bile function either. So if we don't have that, we can't move copper. So sometimes we start working on these macro minerals. We start to give your body the functions it needs to start to recycle and move things. And we can look at the next test, and we can see this way up here. So it didn't mean that she actually had low copper. So this is a reason why getting this test, and one of the reasons getting this test interpreted properly is so important. So not just getting a hair tissue mineral analysis yourself and saying, oh, looks like I'm low in all these, I'll start to supplement them. Oh, I'm high in this, I will start to eliminate that. That is not how this test works. So this is hidden because of her bile function and her adrenal function right now. Often, likely these metals are as well, and we could see more metals on a second test. This is not bad. This is actually a good sign that we're starting to give your body the ability it needs to eradicate and detoxify. Okay, so here is another example of a test. This one I wanted to show because this is a good example of someone who might not benefit greatly from taking lots and lots of beef liver. So she had a really high adrenal ratio um, her sodium and magnesium. So it was actually very high. So taking a lot of the B vitamins that are found in high levels in beef liver might actually make her adrenals worse. Her adrenals were already overactive, they were already too fast. So something like beef liver, even though it does have good components and it does have great mineral content, for her could be just speeding it up too fast. She doesn't need to speed them up. She needs other nutrients. She's a fast oxidizer. Her adrenals are overactive. She also, her copper is climbing up too, so that might be a factor as well in getting in lots and lots of beef liver would just not be something that she would need right now and actually would could make her symptoms worse. Another factor for this one would be this uranium, as you can see, is off the charts. And there were other markers on this test that I don't have up in this class, but she actually tested because of this HTMA and different markers we saw. We suggested doing some radon testing in her home, and she had lots of radon in her home, which is radioactive um, uranium. So that's found in like basements, soil. So it's like comes through crawl spaces or basements and like basically permeates the air. But it also can come through water. But she was filtering her water really well. So we were trying to figure out where this was coming from, and they ended up doing radon testing. They had a huge contamination. So, like, obviously, very, very thankful that they caught that. But this is another example. You know, she would have never thought maybe I have uranium in such high levels, especially because she was doing such a great job filtering her water. So, it's just such a great test to be able to see really narrow down what's going on and why you're feeling the way you're feeling and like know which direction to go next. So she knew her next direction was let's test for radon, and that is what she needed to do. So I just wanted to show that example just for the example of, you know, beef liver isn't always the answer for someone. That might actually make people feel worse um, during any stage, preconception, pregnancy, or postpartum if it's overdone, um, as well as um, let's go back here. We're gonna skip back. So someone here, you'd say, okay, she could use a little magnesium. Everyone loves magnesium. You know, this is a very trendy mineral right now. But what does magnesium need to function correctly? It needs sodium. So it needs a strong adrenal ratio to work properly. And if you don't have that, magnesium can actually make your adrenals worse in high doses. Now, magnesium baths, topical magnesium, that's totally fine. But when people are high dosing supplemental magnesium, they're actually tanking this even further and pushing their sodium down even further, which is needed for energy, um, for your muscles, for your stomach acid, for everything. So no singular mineral is going to work alone, and you can't expect it to work that way. So we can't just mega dose magnesium or take a bunch of this or take a bunch of calcium or take a bunch of potassium or do anything without something else being antagonized. Every mineral has a synergist and every mineral has an antagonist. So some things are going to raise well together and work together and complement each other. Other things, one goes up, the other must come down. That is how it is designed. So looking at all of these as a whole is very important, and not just isolating and supplementing in isolated instances is almost never recommended. For very few cases and very few individuals are we going to just focus on one mineral and just mega dose that on its own. Potassium is one that we usually focus on just because we're not supplementing it by any means, but we're focusing on high doses from foods because we are not even getting the minimums of this. And we need more potassium than sodium, and most people are getting far more sodium than potassium. So I just wanted to give that example too, for some of the common issues or trends that are happening in the pregnancy postpartum world. We want to just make sure we're looking at the body as a whole, not even your minerals don't work alone, but also your systems don't work alone. We can't isolate the thyroid. We can't isolate your reproductive hormones. We can't isolate your adrenals. Your whole body is working together. Okay, so I'm here to cut through that noise of all the health information, the supplements, the protocols, the diets, the lifestyles, biohacks, all these things that really are can be beneficial, but unless you know what you need, we are just taking a shot in the dark. That's not how we want to treat our health, especially if we are looking at fertility, pregnancy, or postpartum, because that is such a crucial time in your life. So I'm here to offer a custom approach that provides personalized strategies to address your health needs, where you're starting from. We work together to create lasting solutions, balance out that energy, give your body that stamina, and give you confidence along the way to know you're doing these things and you can take this information for a lifetime. You are going to take away things from a lifetime of passing this knowledge and habits and lifestyle factors on to you, to your children, to your future pregnancies, and you're not going to end up in that state of absolute depletion. When you work with me, we're not only doing lab work, we're getting custom nutrition work, we're going to do lifestyle coaching. You have weekly support, weekly check-ins, um, custom to you. So you're in charge. You're deciding what you want to work on, and you know your life more than me. We're going to get answers that are clear, validation you deserve. I should start keeping track of the number of people that said they cry when they get their results because feeling that you're not crazy and you knew the way you were feeling meant something is so, so important, and you deserve that validation. You're going to gain tools to create healthier relationships with food, understanding why your body is responding the way it is, effectively managing your stress, your weight, um, all while watching all these symptoms just dissipate through lifestyle work because I want you to work with me and then never need me again. We don't need to start relying on heavily therapeutic doses of supplements forever. They are for a small period of time, and these lifestyle factors and habits are what's going to keep you well. So here is some testimonies, like I mentioned. She went from trying to conceive, wanting to regulate things, wanting to conceive without medication, and she got to do that. She took her health seriously and she worked on her lifestyle approaches, and we got to see that. Um, just some different wins that we've had. So we had some weight gain, hair loss, fatigue, no migraines with her period. She had been working on this for 20 years. Hair loss was much lower for this client here, only a month into working on things. Um, we have different big changes in teeth. This was actually for her child, but she was working on this postpartum and then into pregnancy. Um, Having a lot of uncontrollable mood swings postpartum. Um, she just took, she didn't even test right away. She just took some of the lifestyle factors and had seen a huge difference. So just those lifestyle factors are huge. We have a client here who was um, had debilitating insomnia, no libido. She tried thousands of dollars worth of things for years and years and years, and she finally saw where her minerals were at, why her body was reacting the way it was, and she could cut through that noise and really start enjoying life again. Oops. Let me get that out of the way. Um, this client wanted to improve energy, body composition. She got to do that. Again, hair loss, fatigue. She struggled for so many years with these things, tried all the supplements, cleanses, programs. I see this with a lot of people. You try all the things and you are just guessing and throwing just caution to the wind and wanting to do all the things. She actually saw what she needed. She didn't have to guess, and she's seeing results. Um, she really appreciated the knowledge and confidence she gained. Having clear direction. You're not going to have judgment here. I want to help. I want to listen. Um, Anxiety gone. So many things. So, what does it look like to work with me? So, this is 6 months of support. So, you work with me for 6 months, one on one. It's a $4,000 investment. This includes all of your lab work and all of your mineral supplements, which is a big deal. That's a lot um, of mineral support. Any um, It's often over 6 months. You'll have a supply for almost 7 to 8 months, actually. So you will definitely be getting your support from minerals and supplements in that cost. We have the option of group support, group education, if you would like to participate in that. We have monthly Zooms one-on-one that you are able to schedule at your leisure. You can use them whenever you like, but you have 6 total, so whenever you want to use them, you can. We have personalized weekly goal setting. So this is your health, your life. You are in charge of your goal setting. I can give you recommendations and ideas of where to start, but ultimately, you are in charge of what you want to work on first. And I am here to facilitate and hold you accountable. We'll have check-ins each week for that. You will get continual education every other week through your email. You will have education. You're going to have unlimited voice, text, and email access to me in a business week. So within 24 hours, I will respond to you via whatever mode you prefer, voice, text, or email. Again, like I said, the 7 months plus of mineral support included. You will have a meal plan example specific to where your calories are, what your oxidation rate is, and you will have that all the way up, built all the way up to 2,500 calories. So you're going to have support every part of the way if you are building up your calories or if you are tapering down your calories, regardless. If you are a fast oxidizer or if you are a slow oxidizer, that's going to change what your macros look like. So we will have that support included and some examples. You're going to get a 31-page metabolic guide that just talks about some of the overviews of your thyroid, what that's doing, your adrenals, the hormones that it's making, just an overall support and guide. And there's also some recipes in there that are just good nutrient dense recipes. Um, you will get a nervous system workbook. So you're going to have a workbook on how to just work through some things that might cause you stress. So really looking at your vagus nerve, your nervous system is going to be a lot of what we work on, and you will have a self-guided workbook to use and help in that. Obviously, throughout this biweekly educational support, you'll get other support on trauma, on stress management, we'll talk about specifically your adrenals, your thyroid, sunlight, the importance of that. We'll go over all your foundational work. And then in addition, you will get 25% off your first full script order. This is usually where I would recommend some supplements for your gut if needed. So that GI map that we do, if you need specific supplements, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's just lifestyle factors we need to adjust. But you will get a larger discount on your first order if you need gut supplements. After purchasing, you receive the test in the mail, and your GI map will come straight from the lab. They will come separately. You can let me know when you mail your test in so we can start working on things right away. You're also going to get a questionnaire that's very thorough. It should take about 20 minutes to complete. So it's very thorough on your health history, your symptoms, your goals. And we can work on that and what I really would like to help you with and what you are looking to accomplish. Once we get results, it's usually 2 to 4 weeks after you mail them in. You're going to get a full interpretation video on your results, nutritional protocols, handouts, all the information. And then that is when your 6 months actually starts. So from the day you get results, then your 6 months will start and you will have a full 6 months of support with me and help once you receive your protocol. And as a bonus for completing this class, you are eligible for a discount for that 6 month one-on-one, and that is the code Motherhood, and you will receive 10% off. And here are all of the references if you would like to look at any of those on your own. And I want to thank you so much for coming and watching this and learning. And I hope you have learned some information about your minerals, about the importance of them and how to attain them. And I would love to work with you and help achieve these goals that you have in this period of your life. If you have any questions, please contact me on my Contact Me page. You can email me from there, and I would love to chat. Have a great day, and thanks for downloading and learning from me.